4. Another Jewish king, persecutor of Christians. A second Jewish king, descendant of the first, to persecute the Christians, showed hate's fiercest thirst. If information sought about this wicked king, that chapter of the Quran read, heaven's girdle ring. A sorry rite it was, the first had introduced, with cruel zeal, this wicked rite, the last abused. The introducer of a rule that tends to ill draws on his head deep curses, mourn and even still. The good decease, the right example serves as guide. The wicked soon decay, their name all men deride. The children of those sinners, till the trump of doom, are cursed as soon as born. No lot or full of gloom. How many springs burst forth, one salt, the other sweet. Their savor changes while the days and nights compete. The good are promised their inheritance aloft, of waters sweet in scripture mentioned oft and oft. The seeker's wish, if rightly considerate, a scintillation is a flame from holy writ. No flame exists apart from body whence it burns. For the burning body hides the flame two turns. A window light will wander all around a room, because the rising sun to sunset tends, and gloom, that which to any constellations, stars pertains, must move with it, rise, set, south, as its place ordains. The man who under Venus's influence was born is joyous, amorous, ambitious, with greed torn. If Mars, his planet be, his tempers bellicose, war, scandal, litigation, these he most does choose. But other stars there are, the planets 7 beside, and unto men from them nor good nor ills betide, revolving in another firmament than they, above the spheres that bear the orbs of night and day. Bright through the moral splendor, let them by the Lord, not bound together quite, nor yet in disaccord. The man whose soul is influenced by one of those, like meteors, still shall drive away the spirit's foes. Its disposition feeleth not the rage of Mars. His temperesis meekly acts in prosperous wars. His light's triumphant, darkness it shall never know. Between two fingers holdeth he the truth. I trow, the truth doth shed a shining light on human souls, received by heaven's favorites in special ghostly strolls. Illumined with that light, as spangles deck a bride, they turn their souls to God, contemning all beside. Who feels not keenly love's great soul compelling might, is portionless of spangles from truth's flashing light. All parts must ever share the nature of their whole, as nightingale pours out unto one rose its soul. Whatever property may qualify a thing, externally, man's qualities are mind's offspring. From purity, rich colors rise, good qualities, stains. Moral are as dyes from gross impurities. God's baptism is the name of all that's good in man, the curse of God of all that's evil in our plan. In which of these two seas our streamlets may subside, they but return into the source. From whence their tide, from mountain tops, swift torrents, rushing down apace, from men's frames, love-inspired souls anon the race. The counsel here that now this Jewish dog can take, beside a fire, a hideous idol he did make. And proclamation ran, whoever save his soul, his idol worship are in fire, he's burnt to coal, thus having made his hate an idol to himself. A second idol, straightway he invents, this elf. The mother of all idols is our fleshly pride. Their dragons this, the egg of a cockatrice's bride. The flesh is flint and steel, our pride is but its spark. That pride pervades the flesh as incantation's mark. Can moisture quench the latent spark in flint and steel? Can man be safe while flesh and pride he lives to feel? In flint and steel we know that fire is still alive. No waters of avail that fire from them to drive. With water we put out a fire when burning bright. The spark in flint and steel is safe from water's might. From flint and steel of flesh what burnings still ensue. There sparks the blasphemies of Christian and of Jew. If water in the jug and pitcher come to end, on a wellspring we must draw, a fresh supply to send. Our idol is the muddy dregs left in our jug, the flesh, the sewer from whence it filters, spite a plug. The graven idol fed from blackest sewer tide, in flesh its graver was a fountain by wayside. The inward idol pride in filthy jugs, black slush, the prurient flesh, the soul from which it had its gush. 100 potters, pitchers, one small stone can break, and spill the cooling water. Drawn our thirst to slake, to smash an idol, too, quite easy may appear. Not easy to root out the flesh, too hard, I fear. Would see the picture of the flesh, inquiring youths, description read of hell, with 7 yawning mouths. From each soul's flesh comes forth a special mode of guile, each guile a whirlpool ready, Pharaoh's hosts spoil. In Moses and in Moses' God, seek refuge then, abandon not God's faith for pharaohs and their men. The one true God adore, in Ahmed's faith believe, the soul and body save, from Abu Dahel retrieve. The Jew a Christian mother to that idol brought, an infant in her arms, the fire with blazes fraught. Fall down and worship, cried he, senseless, stalk adore. The fire shall then not harm thee, now nor evermore. That mother was a woman, firm in true belief, and thence disdain prostration. Though should give relief. They snatched her infant, next they dashed it in the flame. The mother's spirit quailed to see this deed of shame. Though not herself to save her infant, she'd bow down, but lo, a miracle, the babe cried, let alone, uninjured am I here, come and be not dismayed. 'Tis cool and pleasant, cease to feel a fire, afraid. Mere blinding bandage to the eyes, not but a veil. God's mercy here revealed, made manifest. All hail! Come in, my mother dear. The truth thou shalt record. Thou'lt here perceive how saints hold converse with the Lord. Come in and witness, water blazing high as fire. This is a world where flame like water is not dire. Come, look on miracles, for blessed Abram wrought, Abraham, whose furnace changed to gardens, out of firewood brought. Death then I underwent, when I was born of thee. The fear of death swept o'er me, ere my eyes could see. With birth I escaped from prison, narrow, dark, and drear, emerging to a world vast, radiant, bright, and clear. Alas, that world you see is but a second womb. Joy, comfort, happiness are found beyond the tomb. Within this fire, a realm of wonders lies around. Each atom's here a Jesus, balm to heal each wound. This world I'm in's reality, not merely form. The scene I've left's all vanity, food for the worm. Come in, my mother, quick. Seize this auspicious hour. Come in, let opportunity not escape thy power. Come in, and name a parent's tenderness. Come in, this fire has no devouring ruthlessness. Come in, thou'st witness all that Jewish dog can move. Come in, the grace and power of God Almighty prove. 'Tis from my love for thee I thus so much insist. From pleasure felt by me for thee I fear dismissed. Come in, and others call to follow thee. Great King, here his bounteous tables spread for me. Come in, all of you, saints of God elect, resigned ones, faith's cup of martyrdom select. Come in, flock in crowds, as moths around a light. This year has tens of thousands, springs, but not one night. Thus loudly cried the infant from its bed of flame. The assembled crowds all heard it, all were seized with shame. A sudden holy impulse urged them to obey, and crowds, those men and women, cast their lives away. No force was needed, no compulsion, all was love. For bitterness is sweet to all whom love doth move. To such a point it came that guards and soldiers all were fain to cry, withhold, the fire is more than full. The Jewish king, at sight of all this love and zeal, was shamed, was thunderstruck. His wicked heart did reel. He saw that faith can give the lover's ardent flame. Self-sacrifice is not, in true devotion's name. Thank God Beelzebub was conquered in that Jew. Thank God 'twas Satan himself these darksome deeds did rue. The shame he sought to bring upon the cheeks of some, 100-fold was heaped on his own head at home. He thought from others' shame the veiling leaf to tear. He saw them safe, his own foul nakedness laid bare. A ribald fellow once, by Lewis mob sustained, called, railing out on Ahmed, wry his mouth remained. He then came begging pity in the prophet's trace. Forgive Muhammad, heart endued with wisdom's grace. For want of knowing better, insolent I was. 'Tis I that merit scorn and mockery, alas. When God decides to humble any sinner proud, a demon stirs this last insult some man of God, and he whom God elects to cloak, or 'tis he halts his grace bestowed on him to cover others' faults, should favor from the Lord in mercy reach a man. Humility is given him to pray part of his plan. How blessed are the eyes that smart with sorrow's brine. How blessed is the heart inflamed with love divine. Contrition's tears are ever hollowed by heaven's smile. the latter end of all things man should scan a while. Wherever water flows, the fields are fresh and green. Tears followed are by grace, as all the prophets ween. Then imitate the water wheel that groans and weeps. By prayers and moans and tears, a man his heart pure keeps. Wouldst thou shed tears, feel pity, when thou meetest woe? Wouldst mercy find, show mercy, when men bow them low? The Jewish king reproached the fire, O raging thing, by all destructive might, where is it? Where's thy sting? If thou wilt not consume, what quality hast thou? Or has my fortune veered, and with it thy dreadful glow? Thou sparest not thy worshippers, the Magian race. Zoroastrians didn't really worship fire. Whence comes it? These who spurn thee, Christians, meet with grace. Thou never was, O fire, for patience noted here. Why burnest thou not? What is there? Hast thou lost thy power? This eye binding? Is it rather reason's blind? How is the flames consumed? Not all their hated kind. Bewitched thee, have they? Or is magic natural? Or is it my fortune wills that thou turn prodigal? To him the fire, O miscreant, I'm still the same. Come in and try how thou'lt find my smallest flame. My nature, as my substance, has not suffered change. Outside my nature's limit, I have no power to range. At door of Turkman's tent, the savage household dogs do wag their tails before a guest and crouch like logs. But should a stranger pass by near the guarded tent, him then those dogs assail with lion-like intent. Less than a dog I'm not, in service to my lord. Then Turkman lies, there's none in rights upon earth's sward. When fire thy body injures and inflicts some harm, remember its consuming power can also warm. And when a fire thus serves thee, acts some needful part, reflect those qualities thou seest did God impart. Art injured, haps fall down, entreat the Lord with prayer. The hurtful power was given by him in gracious care. Should he so will, each injury a blessing is. Chained captives find their freedom by a word of his. Fire, air, earth, water, south, east, west. All are servants of their God. I thou them lifeless deem, he knows they live and plod. In presence of the great creator, fire must still its service do, and lover-like work out his will. Thou strikest flint on steel, fire instantly leaps forth. 'Tis by commandment of the Lord it thus takes birth. Strike not together, thou, the flint and steel of lust, for male and female alike, they'll generate, they must. The flint and steel are means, far higher raise thy look. With reason, thou'rt endowed, go read the holy book. One means comes from another means, and cause from cause. Without a means or cause, no means from self arose. The means by which all prophets, miracles are wrought, of higher order are than earthly means, no doubt. Man's mind can compass how these latter act, and when the former hidden are from all but prophets ken, these former 'tis that give the latter power to act, and rarely that their normal action counteract. A means a rope is, by the help of which we reach an end this worldly pit, by means each reaches each. Around its coiling cylinder, the well ropes wound to shut our eyes to this world, to this would blind, indeed, be found. The ropes, by means of which results are seen to steer in this our world, deem not they're moved by star or sphere, lest thou become confused and giddy like a wheel. Take fire, consume like tinder, sparks a shame to feel. The air becomes a fire, at times by God's decree. Both air and fire run wild with joy, his means to be. The streams of mercy, the consuming fires of wrath, thou see, my son, are both from God. Look well, forsooth. Were not the wind aware of God's almighty power? How had it ever blown the blast of odds last hour? Around this Muslimine hall a saving circle drew. The wind within that mystic circuit softly blew, while all that were beyond were dashed to pieces soon. Like chaff before the breeze, their limbs around were strewn. Shaban the shepherd, too, a circle round his fold, was used to draw whatever the season, hot or cold, on Fridays when at midday's sacred hour of praise, he to a congregation hide lest wolf should seize. No wolf was ever known to break the holy spell, nor sheep to stray beyond. Each knew the limit well. To win to wolf the sheep and lusts of every one, the circle traced by saint, a barrier was like stone. To Gnostic, so likewise, the harmless scale of death blows mild and gentle, summer breezes like on Heth. And fire was spangless. Could not Abraham offend? How should it hurt him? Was he not God's chosen friend? The pious man burns, not in fire of fleshly lust, but sinners, still consumed, are upon earth's crust. The Red Sea waves are raging by divine command. The host of Israel knew, but Pharaoh's army is drowned. The earth again, wide gaping, at Jehovah's word, did Korah and his wealth devour, but Moses spared, and Jesu's hand warned with his breath the fictile clay. As living birds arose, spread wing and flew away. Thy lauds and praises too, breath from thy frame account. Sincerity then vivifies. To heaven they mount. The rock of Sion danced at sight of Moses' God. As perfect Cenobite, its faults were all removed. What wonder if a hill should dance and saint become? Was not great Moses' self a clod of clay and loam? The Jewish king now manifested great surprise. These things, he said, were mockeries, mere patent lies. His counselors conjured him more sedate to be, and not to push his hardihood to rash degree. These counselors he fettered, into prison cast, injustice to injustice adding, first and last. A shout was heard from heaven when matters reached that point. Jew dog prepare for vengeance from on high, anoint. The fire then blazed amain, its flames leapt all around. It slew and burned the mob of Jews from off the ground. Their origin was hell, from whence their souls had come. Their goal was also hell, To it they now went home. The Jewish race is hellish, many proofs are shown. Parts are they of a whole accursed, as is well known. Their nature hellish, all their joy, God's saints to burn. Their fire recoiled upon themselves, 'twas justice's turn. For them who were by nature children born of wrath, the lowest depths of hell were fittest cells forsooth. A mother ever yearneth after her own child. A dam is ever followed by her offspring wild. Though true that water may enclosed be in a tank, the air will it absorb, 'twas thence to earth it sank. Air sets it free direct, restores it to its source. By little and by little none perceives its course. So too our breath and manner like steals souls away. By little and by little from this house of clay, in words of praise ascending to God's holy throne. From us to where he reigns, as known to him alone, our breathings rise on wings of true sincerity, the offerings of our hearts to all eternity. We then receive rewards for those poor words of praise, and tenfold showers of mercy from the Ancient of Days, and we are still constrained to utter songs of thanks, that man should be raised above the angelic ranks. The rising and descending alternatives for A. The Lord forbid that I should fail. The Lord forbid that I should fail therein one day. We're drawn, we are attracted, so to love the Lord, as we were first instructed, firm to trust his word. Each man will turn his eyes and hopes towards the place where he has tasted joy, some former day of grace. The pleasures of each kind are most with their own kin, as part must share with whole its qualities its sin. Things needs must be assigned unto a common class. If aught they have in common, two will form a race. Thus bread and water are not human at the first, but human they become through hunger and through thirst. In form they have no tie with us of humankind, but through a special link they kindred with us find. If pleasure then we find in what's not of a race, be sure there's some connection through which this takes place. If that connection but resemblance be in shape, it will not last, it's for a time it must escape. 'Tis true that birds find pleasure in a whistle's note, but then they fancy 'tis their mates on whom they dote. And if a thirsty man take pleasure in his wine, he tastes the lees and loaths to water he'll incline. A pauper may amused be with counterfeited coin, but take this to the mint, defaced 'twill be and fine. Then be not thou misled with gilded counterfeit. Delusion will be plunged headlong into hell's pit. Yeah, illusion and delusion, whatever you call it, has its issues. And remember that some of these things, it's a teaching story. It's not always saying that the Quran or what Muhammad taught explicitly renders these things, but here's the lesson that's being driven. Some of these things are can be found in some of the elaborated tafsir, and the tafsirs that what they usually mean by tafsir isn't revealed or inspired. Al-Quran chapter 85, the name of which literally means the towers, the zodiac, the astrological houses or different stuff, but also applies to the signs of the zodiac. The Christians were the people of Najran in southwestern Arabia, the persecutor Thu Nuwas, a Jew, a king of Yaman, sometime before Muhammad. So they're not saying all Jews or all Christians on when we're talking about either side. Gardens beneath which rivers flow is a frequently recurring expression in the Quran. Some has special names. Quran 35:29. Then we caused thee to inherit the scripture. In Quran 132 of chapter 2, Islam is termed God's baptism in 256 and again in 742 and 1121. God's curse is invoked on sinners. Now, we don't have to go around per se cursing people, as is like a more regular thing. It's sort of an automatic thing. You think about it, the cursed beliefs, the cursed actions, fall into that. Now, this is a story alluded in the Quran in Surah 85, quoted above in traditions. Thu Nuwas was the name of the Jewish king of Yaman who burnt the Christians of Najran in a fiery trench on their refusing to forsake their faith. The idol is imaginary from Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, so see, that part wasn't included in the prophetic relation of it. Quran 16:45, 37:72, 40:76 speaks of the gates of hell, and a commentary to She Last Days says they were held to be 7. And on, I think, the 17th of July, I release a program that mentions the 7 hells by name in a different language, but same basic thing, right? So the names are a little bit different. It's, Abu Jahl was a surname given by Muhammad to one of his most inveterate enemies of the Quraysh, killed at Badr. The word means father of ignorance. And when we say emotional ignorance, we're not saying it's about somebody being emotional or sensual or whatever their type is. It's different than that. And here indicates fleshly pride. He had formerly borne the surname of Abul Hakam, which means father of the arbitrator. In Quran, Surah 21, 869, it is related the miracle by which Abraham was saved from the fire into which he was cast by Nimrod for his refusal to worship an image. The word Muslim, whence the corruption, Muslim, means in Arabic one who acquiesces in the truth and will of God. And the truth and will of God, of course, in parentheses, because that's the implication. As such, Muslimin have existed under every dispensation. So the Arabic's just a new word for the same old thing. The creaking, leaky water wheel, the Persian wheel, is known in the East. Eye binding is a name for sorcery. The spectator is supposed to have had his sight spellbound so as not to see what is really done. Now, you can repeat the last 2 chapters of the Quran, and if you're the belief issue, you can say 112 too. But specifically, Surah 68, 8, 51, and 52, or the whole chapter, you can say, but those 2 verses in particular. Odd, a pre-Semitic, well, that's not the right word, perhaps Turanian people in southeastern Arabia, often mentioned in the Quran, they refused to believe the prophet Hud, supposed to be Heber, and were destroyed, Surah 69, ayat 6 through 7, by an 8 days tempest. And you know, I've encountered weeks worth of thunderstorms in a row, and you couldn't reliably do anything outside. So I understand that. Like everyday cloudy weather and thunderstorms at some point. Quran 23:76, Quran 3:43, Quran 7, 139. And I can't help but think there's more references that we're missing, because I was thinking about some of that, but the religious poets are people who render the spiritual themes from Revelation and inspiration through relating of the lives, you know, in a real life way that's understandable and direct to their life. Of course, the scriptures to be talk about real life things too. I'm not saying that, but like the acts of these apostles. So here is the I'm not apostles. That's wrong word, sort of Christian way of thinking, but you know, the acts of the adepts that we already shared is sort of a instructive history of the Sufis that we hear mentioned here.